Good evening or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting. This meeting will be recorded, so you can watch it later again, and those who are not present can watch it. My name is Jukka Jauhiainen, and I will give this short introduction for this thesis kickoff, going through some general things and such. And then the other teachers who are responsible for the actual thesis supervision will continue with more specific introduction to their curricula. If you have any questions, please ask at any time or write in the chat. I hope some of us teachers will follow the chat also and answer if I'm not noticing it. So I think we start, and we try to keep this quite short and simple. Some things about this Moodle page. I saw that some users have already enrolled. Yeah, this is for the teachers mainly, because I think you should. I don't know if you have sent this Moodle page link to your students. There are 31 participants already. I tried to remove the self-enrollment key, but for some reason I can't do it. I can show it here. So the enrollment key is YPR. I'm using Norton password manager, and I think that prevents me from deleting the password key. Anyway, I can't do it. So you have to use that when you enroll, if you haven't done it already. Some general things first. There are 3 principal lecturers present who are responsible for this kickoff. Me, Timo Vainio, and Ilpo Virtanen. Then there are at least Harri Määttä, who is teaching the printed electronics and knows very much about the contents of that education. And was the Jussi also present? I don't see it. But okay, but there are teachers present also other than mentioned here. Sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 were written and presented by Petri Hoppu. I'm not going through these sections here. You can watch them by yourselves. They are more general introduction to master's thesis and topics related to that. In this session, we are going to concentrate on this thesis we are dealing now. The Zoom link will appear here after this session ends. I will send the link also to the teachers. What else? At this point, do you have any questions, comments?
By the way, Jukka, are you going to record this?
Yes, it's going already. It's recording all the time. I had an idea. Okay, and the thesis already, maybe you already know that for the engineers, you should start it quite soon, because you should graduate in 1 year. So this process should start immediately. And for those who have 90 ECTS credits degree, you have a bit more time. But Ilpo will talk about that later. So okay.
Should we go through this practical thesis phases? Because I think it's more or less safe for everyone. Yeah, or should I do it?
Okay, I will go through these general things, and then I let you speak.
Good.
So now here are the thesis phases. It's 30 ECTS credits, and for engineer this covers half of your degree, so it's quite large. And it should be somewhat more, go somewhat deeper than the bachelor's thesis, or a bit more scientific. But here are the phases. Now we are in this kickoff meeting. And when you write this idea paper we're talking about later, you get the first 3 ECTS credits. When you have the idea of the thesis, you should do an application to Mrs. She's married. Susanna Kujanpää, who will assign the thesis supervisor to you. And the application should be done via Pulmo system, which can be found in Peppi. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you because we teachers have a little different user interface to the Peppi system. After the thesis supervisor has been assigned, then start this second part, orientation and ideation, information retrieval, theoretical definition and review of the subject. There you should form some kind of theoretical framework and study the literature and so on. And at this point, the thesis supervisor will start to supervise your thesis. Then more careful planning. The more careful planning of the process itself and the outcome. 5 ECTS, the actual implementation. So data collection and analysis, and description and conclusion. This is the main part of the work, 13 ECTS. Reporting and presentation. And then finally a maturity exam, which can be in the form of article, media release, newsletter, or blog. So we don't write the traditional maturity exam anymore, which you have already done in the bachelor's degree. This would be in more practical form. Here is a link to the thesis instructions. I think I'm not going through everything here. You can all read. Just a few key points. Here you find the thesis template. And if you need a PowerPoint presentation, then here is a template for that. We at Oulu University of Applied Sciences, we don't have separate instructions for the master's thesis. So don't be confused about that. So both the bachelor's and master's thesis follow these same basically the same rules, and they are separated where needed, like here in the assessment. But everything you really need to know, you can find here, and you should go through this material quite soon when you start this process. Okay, just a few words about the assessment. I saw just one key point. Assessment criteria, the topic, is meaningful and new from the point of view of working life and or the business and cultural life of the region. So this includes that it should be both scientific and meaningful from the point of the working life. And in ideal case, this topic you should get the topic from your present workplace, if possible. That would be the ideal thing. But you see the criteria here, what is required for which grade. And usually I would advise students to check these criteria before you start, because then you have some idea of what you will be required. Then here are the curricula, which my colleagues will introduce soon. And here is the assignment. To get the 3 ECTS credits, you should write the thesis idea paper. Okay, part 1. We originally had part 2, but we now have only part 1. I will remove this later. Write a brief paper about your preliminary ideas concerning the thesis. Describe briefly following issues, topic and rationale for choosing it. Define the goal or goals of the thesis. And we have a deadline here, at least for the engineers. I think this was the same for everyone. I'm not remember anymore. Don't remember. October 22nd, which is before the autumn break. This is always carried individually. And one of us teachers will evaluate it and give comments, and then it's either passed or failed. And when it's accepted, you get the first ECTS credits. Here is the return box. You should return this idea paper here. Okay, that's about what I intended to say at this point for the general part. Now, do you have any questions, comments? Very silent, like all my lectures. Okay, then maybe I stop sharing my screen and my ugly face, and maybe some of my colleagues will take over now and tell more specifically about their stuff.
Okay, maybe I continue a little bit about practical things related to supervising the thesis. I'm Timo Vainio, as you can see, name, and I have supervised rather a lot of different kind of theses, and I'm going to show some points which are related to thesis works. So I have practically noticed that they are important. I show now some slides. I guess you can see this now. So some practical aspects or hints related to thesis work. I guess that it's visible for you, as I mentioned. So at first, maybe you are wondering very beginning how to get topic of your master's thesis. Okay, very often students get some topic from the company they are working for, not always, but it's rather common situation. And it's very good because it's win-win situation, so that company can get something useful and also a student can get thesis topic and start to work with that. Okay, if that is not possible, another option is that you find topic for your thesis from some other company. It's good as well. Then it's possible that you choose just your own topic, and so that if you are interested, for instance, some specific issue you would like to study more, or then you can always ask from your university or our university laboratory, or if we have some projects going on where we can offer something related to your subjects you are interested in. Then Jukka also already mentioned this is important once again, so that when you have got that title, or you have decided that this is my title, or you have agreed with your company that I'm going to do my thesis by using this topic, then you should contact via Pulmu Mrs. Susanna Kujanpää, and then you get some of our teachers who supervise your thesis. And I think that that is important step from the beginning, so that you remember that Susanna Kujanpää, because otherwise there can be some confusion if you, for instance, name in Pulmu system some other person. Then it can cause some troubles or delays, at least when you get supervisor. Then these maybe are these some points I'm saying. Practical working with theses, they are related to those students who sometimes struggle. I think that it's important. Already Jukka mentioned that there are some phases, but it's important that a student divides his thesis project in smaller phases. For instance, if we compare with construction, it's difficult to build up everything at the same time if we are building some house, but there are logical phases, and it's much better result if you concentrate in certain phase at certain time. And just the same with thesis projects, so that you should concentrate in certain phase so that you do that properly, and then continue to the next phase. And then you get that progress better than if you try to do too many things at the same time. Or we can compare that with cake eating. We always eat cake in small pieces, and just the same thing with the thesis project. If you eat pieces small enough, maybe your thesis project feels like it's piece of cake afterwards. You have finished your thesis. What I'm meaning is there are natural phases. So for instance, if you have chosen some title, then at first it's important to check what others have done related to your topic, so that you can find things related to your topic from articles, books, Wikipedia, internet, all kind of sources. And it also helps then to form in your mind what kind of thesis you are going to do when you see that what people have done around the world related to your thesis topic. Then again, that I already mentioned, pieces small enough so that you concentrate a small piece at the moment, and then you make that ready, and then you continue with the next piece. And depending on the student, there are different approaches, but I have found when I have supervised that those students who sketch rather early phases, some kind of contents, for instance, table of contents, thesis document, that also helps the documentation, and partly also that dividing that thesis project in practically good phases and pieces which are easy to done, so that actually that whole project, we can say that it forms several small pieces. And there are different types to document, but I think that good way is to document parallel to other working with thesis. You document at the same time, but of course, maybe some students prefer that they do documentation a little bit late, but I recommend that parallel documentation. Then one point again, if you work continuously, it helps to get ready faster, and you don't forget what you have done earlier, so that even though you feel that you are busy with maybe studies, family, or your work life, one trick is that you reserve some time in your calendar, so that at least few hours per week, so that you work continuously. It helps. If you have, for instance, 2 months break, then you have to try to memorize what you have done earlier, and it's more troublesome, I would say. Then very important thing also, after you have got nominated supervisor, then you normally have that kind of starting meeting when you agree some practical ways you are going to work with the thesis. And then normally we supervisors, we ask that student keep contact regularly to the supervisor. For instance, send some update, for instance, if we don't have any specific meeting. So let's say after each 2 or 3 weeks. And it's important that you remember to do that, because also our university is interested how students make progress with their thesis, and then we have a report that how theses are progressing. Then we shall send you email and ask what is going on. So it's your responsibility to keep contact to supervisor. And of course, main responsibility to do your thesis work is your responsibility, so that we can give some guidance, but we don't do anything for you, so that we don't write your document. And so it's, of course, crystal clear. And then it's important that sometimes you have to push yourself to work, so that because making thesis, it's just work. It's comparable just that it's studying and it's work, so that working continuously and pushing sometimes due to work, you get good results, I think. And thesis document, I mentioned already, if you sketch table of contents in early phases, it's a good thing. And if you write at the same time. And Jukka already mentioned that you should use these guidelines we have, and of course the template. From the very beginning, you should use the correct thesis document template. Then you don't have to change that afterwards. And here, if someone is interested, there are some links related to master thesis documents. You can check those also later. I think that we delivered these slides in Moodle. So there was shortly some practical issues related to your thesis work. Anything to ask or comment?
Yes, Timo Jaali speaking here. Is it nowadays mandatory that our thesis is public available?
Yes, it must be public document, so that if you are, for instance, making your thesis for some company, then it's you and your company responsibility to check that everything that the document contains, it can be published, so that, yeah.
So there's no way to keep the thesis confidential?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Good question. Okay.
Timo Jaali continues. I just wonder that how we even could ask from company that we want to do some analysis to business data and to thesis, and everyone sees the data available.
Okay, I think that sometimes in that kind of situation, for instance, if I have supervised some thesis where have been, for instance, some money related to things. So then in the thesis document, there are used some other symbols, not money, but for instance, it's hidden so that there is certain units. There are not any currency is not used, but for instance, A unit of money and B unit of money, and so that there are some kind of relations. For instance, some cases it's hidden in that way. So, but it can be a challenge in some cases. I agree, but we can't avoid all universities in Finland and all thesis documents. They must be public.
I would like to comment that sometimes the thesis itself maybe can maybe written in quite general level, and the secret material is in the appendices, and then those are not published. There are several options.
Good comment,
Yeah.
Jukka. Yeah, that is used sometimes as well.
And I have to now ask my colleagues because I'm new here, but in the University of Oulu, we use the practice where basically the students explicitly mention the company. So it was called company alpha and product beta, and this way. So basically that gives some higher level of confidentiality, but of course it's not the optimal solution. So is it okay to do that also in our university?
Yes, it's okay. I am supervising one thesis like that, so the company name is never mentioned in the thesis, and some specifics are not mentioned, but very many things are so general or apply to almost anything, so they can be published.
Yeah. So Harry here, I have actually one comment to this related to this. So I think we always have to respect the company's wishes. So if they don't want something to be published, then we are not going to publish those. But as the previous teacher said, so that there are certain levels that how generic can we write the public thesis which will be published, and we can leave out some things that are under NDA, or there's IPR related or anything like that. So don't worry, there is always a solution for that. So whenever if you have a topic from the company, just go ahead and we can think about the confidentiality. Definitely.
Thanks, Harry. That was good comment, because always we have been able to overcome those problems related to this issue you asked. So
One more comment I would like to give is that the evaluation criteria was that you get best grade if your thesis is something new or new application or something, and usually you want to monetize if you innovate something. So just wonder is the evaluation right, because those people who get the best thesis topics are going to give them best grades, even though the quality of the thesis may be lower than someone doing the general stuff, more general stuff.
It's a really difficult question, really, but at least the teacher should see everything, and that is, the teacher will decide the grade, and the other thing is what is published. I think that does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. So yeah, so actually the public document is different, but the teacher who evaluates the grade
Yes.
thesis see. Okay, yes.
Yes.
questions, maybe Ilpo would like to continue, or
Yeah, if there are no further questions at this point, I'm happy. I try to keep this short and sweet. So practically, I have only a few slides about the practicalities for data analytics students. I have to thank Timo and Jukka, very good comments, and as I mentioned, I haven't supervised thesis in this university, but I have supervised thesis in different levels in University of Oulu. And as a general suggestion, I always remind students that please start working on your thesis and write things, as also Timo said. Don't be afraid of white paper. So that's the most common issue that students have problems to start. But when you have started, it's easy to improve and do the next iterations and do things better. So just get into work when you start the thesis and it will be fine. Okay, so few practical things about the thesis work in the degree program in data analytics. Basically, what is important now, the most important thing to note, which you already mentioned, is that we have two groups of students. We have a Master of Engineering students whose degree is 60 credits, and then we have MBA students whose degree is 90 credits. And of course, how thesis work will happen is slightly different for depending on if you are doing MBA or MA degree. So I will show this curricula. You should have already of course seen it, but it's here in the website. So basically for MBA students, there are quite a lot of courses now in springtime and then fall time, and also in next spring 2020. And then the thesis work has been located here in a way that in the 2020 spring, it's 10 credits of work, or work for 10 credits, and then for next fall, so fall 2020, it will be 20 credits. So basically, in the ideal schedule is that you are supposed to start in the spring and then do most of the work in the coming fall. But you can start already now, earlier, if you feel like, and you have a good topic and you are eager to go on. So there is no problem if you would like to do so. Then for Master of Engineering students, there are a smaller number of courses. You still have, for example, this case study in springtime. But then the thesis work is scheduled to start already now. So work which should, be correspond to 10 credits in this fall 21, and then 20 credits in spring 2020. So that's the difference. So that's the ideal timeline of your thesis work. And now, basically, what this means from practical point of view, is that if you are doing Master of Engineering student degree, you really should return your idea paper before October 2020. So 22nd. That's really needed. Otherwise, your studies will be delayed badly. But then for MBA students, you can return. It's the first deadline. It is in this year, October, and you are free to leave your idea paper already then. But if you haven't planned to start before April, there is no need to return the idea paper yet. So there will be second round around March 2020. We don't know the date yet, but still you can postpone it until there if you feel like. But it's not a bad idea to do it already now if you know the topic and you have been thinking about that. So the subject is preliminary and it can be changed later. So of course it's good if it's fairly close, but let's say the content of the paper doesn't have to exactly agree on the final outcome, so final thesis work. But I say for MBA students, I suggest that if you have no idea and no plans to start thesis work, don't leave the idea paper yet. So don't submit yet, because you have more time, and it's better to take your time and think about it rather than just really submit something which doesn't make sense after all. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. I think I don't have further slides, and that was mainly from my side. In this year, I will read all the idea papers, so they will all come to me. So I think I'm not sure if it's visible in Moodle, but then if you leave your idea paper and you have some comments and questions, I'm the one who is reading those idea papers for data analytics people. Okay, so that's it. Any comments or questions?
Timo speaking again. So we already gave some ideas in assessment work. Can we get, and those were evaluated? Can we get those evaluations somehow to see that if that work already was enough for this first basis of thesis, if we are going to use that idea?
Good point. Actually, we discussed about that with Teppo earlier. Now I have to say that I cannot promise to give you evaluation, but I understood this in a way that if your idea was accepted and you were selected, the idea was pretty good. So actually, one point that Teppo made when we discussed earlier about this was that if students doesn't have any clue about this idea, then it's maybe good to go back to that idea, which was already described in the application phase. So I'm not sure, is there anyone who was involved in the selection process, because I was not working in this university back then. If there is, but I think those teachers are not here, so I cannot ask it at the moment. But in short words, I cannot promise to give evaluation because I don't know how it was exactly done. But in general, if it was accepted, the idea was good.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so that's really one good option. So you also have some kind of idea, which could be for thesis work, but also then if you feel that it's not maybe suitable for thesis, then you have also this 10 credits data analytics case study in springtime. And it can be, let's say, it can be around the same topic, but it cannot be exactly the same topic. So the case study should be independent from thesis. So it cannot be that you put the case study inside the thesis. It won't work, but it can be somehow related, so around the same topic, but it requires some different analysis and different results. Okay, if there are no further questions, thanks. And maybe is Jukka going to say a few more words, or?
I have nothing further to say at this point. The engineering students, you should contact your tutor, which is Harry, I guess, if you have any practical questions. But also you can contact me and Timo also. But I have nothing further at this point. So
Okay, are we done?
I think we are done if you don't have any questions. I will put this recording tonight to Moodle. And you can watch it later if you want to.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a nice weekend.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye bye.